Hi boys and girls, today we're going to be looking at drawing elephants. To start off with, I'm just going to show you some really simple ways to draw some cartoon elephants before looking at an image a bit like this one. Okay, so if you want to just mess around with cartoons, you've got to think about a spoon shape. So we've got like a round shape here going down towards the handle, like so. And that is the elephant's head and trunk. Then whack on a couple of curvy ears. Little eyes, some tusks, and then you can play around with the shape of the elephant there. 4 little legs. Remember to do one leg in front of the other. Okay, and there's an elephant there. Finish it off with a little swishy tail at the back. Okay, so you can play around with that. Your elephant can be doing different things. If you want to do one from the side, it's a similar kind of thing. Little cheeky eye. Body. Whoop. These 2 legs I can see, they're nearest the viewer. Then we've got the back legs here, slightly behind, little cheeky tail. Okay, so if you want to just do cartoons, you can play around with that. That could be lots of fun. But the image we're going to look at is one like this, which is like an old bull elephant, a male elephant. And this one's probably pretty old. They've got loads of beautiful wrinkles and lines. And just like all of these images, we can spend our time building up layer and layer and layer and layer. I've not finished this at all, but I've enjoyed sort of working on the details here, and I'm going to come back to this. So for this image, I've used a pen, a highlighter pen. I've used a felt tip pen, and I've used a pencil. Okay, it doesn't matter what make you use, but you can play around with those, or you can in fact do it in whatever medium you like. So to start off with this, I'm going to think about the shape of the elephant's skull. Okay, it is basically a spoon, but the skull has got a bit more detail than that. So in the center of my page, I'm going to have a slightly curved line at the top, which is the top of my elephant's head. Okay, now in the skull, there's actually these weird curves, which are a bit like a curve of a C and a curve of a D, slightly down. And then these come out here again, almost the opposite of what you've just drawn, which are kind of the eye sockets. Now, elephants' eyes are really quite small, but they're very, very piercing, okay, very important. And as a viewer, you're going to be drawn into these eyes. This comes down, and where the tusks grow, this face kind of comes out a bit. And then, of course, down the middle, you've got this amazing trunk, really beautiful trunk. And you can do it going down almost to the bottom of the page if you like. Okay, and join up these lines here, and we're missing those wonderful ears and the tusks. Okay, now the ears, they tend to come up a little bit slightly before heading down like this. They come out about here, and they've got these wonderful wrinkles. Okay, they've got really fantastic ears. Down, wrinkly, 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 wrinkly. And of course you can play around with this shape. If I'm using a pencil, I can play around with this until I'm happy. Okay, then we've got tusks. Now elephants' tusks are normally not symmetrical. Sometimes they might get broken, sometimes one might be curved a different way than another. It's entirely up to you. So I'm going to do 2 big tusks here. Now they're not always that sharp either, they're kind of blunted. And I'm not worried about it being the same, because I want it to be quite natural. Okay, so there's my elephant's face, very basically. And in the background, I am going to show the impression of the elephant's feet. Elephants have got really fantastic toenails. Looks really cool. There's a detail you might want to look at. But I'm not too bothered about that right now. Okay, then I'm going to draw my horizon line, which will give our image some scope there. Okay, so I've got my basic image here, and this is when I'm going to start to play with the shading, and I'm going to do some strong shading with my felt tip pen. And I'm going to be shading behind the trunk, okay? Down here, where it's going to be dark. I don't really want the viewer to look at this. So I'm going to be quite brave and quite bold with my shading. And you can see here that I'm not colouring it all in. I'm sort of starting where I think there's going to be the darkest bits, and then doing slightly sketchy lines. Okay, and I'm going to come back to that a little bit later on. So this is the bit of the picture that we don't maybe want the viewer to focus in too much. We want it to be focused on the skull and the head of the elephant. All right. Now, back to the pen, okay? Now, if you don't like pen, you can always use pencil or something different, but I'm a real fan of using fine liner. And with my elephant, I'm now going to add all of these amazing wrinkles, okay? So we'll start off about level with the eyes. And we've got these horizontal wiggly lines, okay? Now, just like with the cat drawing last time, my lines are going to be wiggly, and actually, I'm going to break them up a little bit. And as I get closer down this amazing trunk, the lines are going to get closer and closer together as the trunk gets more and more dexterous, and it can move around to grab things like fruit from trees and so on. So lots of these wrinkly lines here all the way to the bottom, okay? And again, you can see they're not going all the way to the edge. I'm not going like this, okay? You can see the difference there straight away in the style of line. It's much more realistic to do these lines going like this, but coming in from the edges, I'll do more and more of these lines, okay? So the further up the elephant we go, the further apart these wrinkles are. And then we've got the top of the head like so. Now, just like with the cat drawing, sometimes these wrinkles come from different directions. So where the tusks come out, the wrinkles are kind of coming out a different direction. You can almost think about it, the tusk growing underneath this skin, and it's coming out like this. And of course, the ears are fantastic to draw. We've got all of these flaps of ear, kind of ear skin, and we can start to show these lines going up, and we can build this up with some really, really heavy shading on top as well. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this picture now, which is very similar. You can see them both together there, Mark 1, Mark 2. And you can see how I've got these wrinkles going up here as well. And I've also, as well as doing my horizontal wrinkles, I've started throwing in some vertical lines as well. And I'm doing lots of kind of dotted ones and jagged ones. And you can see here, as I'm starting to build up the shading of the elephant, getting these really deep creases. And you can use pen for this. You could, if you wanted to, if they're really dark, add a bit of your felt tip just to make it a little bit easier for you. And you can also add your pencil. Okay, now my pencil here is actually a bit too hard, which means it's quite hard to mark dark lines with it. If you've got a softer pencil, like a B or 2B, 3B, 4B, etc., it's easier. This is actually, what is this? A 4H, which is really, really hard. This isn't really the right pencil to use, but it's quite interesting if you have got a set of pencils to play around with that. So, there's my elephant. I'd love to see yours, guys. Good luck and enjoy.